Hello and welcome. I'm Vijay Srinivas, and this is Federal Special Live on Battleground Kerala. Keralam, is UDF making a comeback, or is Pinarayi Vijayan set to script history and enter Keralam? We've got the poll of polls right now to get you all the hints on the permutations and combinations, and guess who could also decode these numbers for us. Joining us is Mr. KJ Jacob and Mr. MG Radhakrishnan, both senior journalists who've tracked Kerala for decades. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the Federal. Let me begin with Mr. MG Radhakrishnan there. That's the exit poll predictions. All of them suggesting that it's a UDF comeback. So it's all VD Satish wave in Kerala. Would you agree with this, sir? Is it something that you expected?
Well, it is more or less on expected lines, and because it seems that all the exit polls are showing almost similar results. And another remarkable feature is that the contest still remains a bit too close, in the sense that the seats predicted for the UDF ranges from just 70 to 18. Most of this by in almost all the exit polls. So that shows that the UDF definitely has an edge according to the exit poll, but at the same time, you don't see a wave kind of situation. So I think this is more or less on expected lines as far as I am concerned.
All right. Okay, Mr. KJ Jacob, the same question for you. Is this something you expected, or is there is a certain amount of surprise here? Mr. Jacob, can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? All right. Okay. So, let me bring Mr. MJ once again here. You think in 2021, LDF under Pinarayi Vijayan won 99 of the 140 seats, a historic second consecutive term, breaking Kerala's long-standing tradition of alternating governments and all that. You think the exit polls suggest that LDF has now shattered that revolving door pattern for a second time now?
Well, it seems to be back to the revolving door pattern now, because if UDF comes back to power, it is in line with Kerala's traditional ways in elections. It aligns with the history, but because the last 2021 actually was an exception, and except for before 2021, there's only one 1977 where UDF got a second. They actually got a second consecutive term. So, barring these two, if you take the entire 70 years long electoral history of Kerala, you have seen that the incumbent governments being voted out at regular intervals. At every 5 years, after every 5 years, the incumbent government is out, and then it's always a bipolar politics. It's either LDF or the UDF. So if it is back to this, the sort of pattern that Kerala has followed all these years, it should be UDF coming back, and so this 2021 will continue to be an exception in history.
But as far as the UDF is concerned, there are lots of conversations going around, and criticism as well. That they don't have a face. You're going to be fighting against, Mr. Brand Pinarayi Vijayan there. It's a huge brand. He's done a lot of things. He's done both optics and in terms of arithmetics as well. The left Democratic Front there. For the UDF, we don't know who's going to be the CM face. Is it going to be Mr. VD Satishan, or is it going to be somebody in Delhi, Mr. KC Venugopal, or is it going to be Ramesh Chinitala? So but despite all of this, the UDF has managed to, at least going by the trends on the exit poll, that they've been able to do something big. So you think that's a no factor in this election there?
Well, that definitely was a factor, and that is one factor which still keeps the LDF afloat, because there doesn't, at least according to the exit polls, there is no washout as we saw in the Lok Sabha elections or in the Panchayat, the municipal elections that we saw last year. So this shows that the LDF has improved its situation compared to those two elections. So, and the credit mostly should go to Pinarayi Vijayan's leadership. You have your criticism about him, you have your differences about his style of functioning, but at the same time, as you said, Pinarayi Vijayan gives a stable, robust, robust face to the LDF. Whereas the other front, the UDF, actually there is a problem of plenty. It is not that they don't have a leader, but they have too many leaders, and I think that is going to weigh down even after the results are will be out, and even if the UDF will come to power. So this will be a major factor that is going to be decisive in UDF's way ahead.
Okay, so there are also lots of conversations going around, minority voter, that's been the X factor and all that here. We
Yeah.
had seen it in the issue of Sabarimala. In an interview with the federal, Mr. Thomas Isaac, the former finance minister, and the Communist Party veteran, had acknowledged that, the left has to get into those kind of religious issues after the BJP's entry. And, you think that must have urged the minorities to choose the UDF this time, going with the exit poll numbers?
Well, you mean there's a minority consolidation behind UDF? That's what you're
Yeah,
asking?
UDF rather than the
Yeah.
LDF, which is usually the trend.
Well, no, this is a very clear case of UDF being, backed by the minorities, to a large extent, compared to 2020, where the LDF could manage to get some votes from the minorities. This time, it looks it is UDF all the way for the minorities, especially the Muslim minorities. If you look at the exit poll results of North Malabar, if you sort of disaggregate the exit poll predictions, the North Kerala, where the Muslim presence is pretty substantial, that seems to be the place where the UDF is actually making big impact. So there is definitely a consolidation of minorities behind UDF, especially the Muslims, and to some extent among the Christians also. Both of them together form about more than about 45% of Kerala's population. So it's very decisive, and it is very, very pronounced this time.
When you really talk about the UDF comeback, let's keep this alternating governments aside, but you also see there's some kind of a voter fatigue, in Mr. Pinarayi
Yeah.
Vijayan there. That the UDF has time and again called it, Mundu Udutha Modi, and that's what they said. So you think it is some certain number of voter fatigue in people, and that must have propped up the anti-incumbency there?
Well, definitely, because 10 years is a pretty long time
That's right.
in power, especially in Kerala, which is traditionally always, as we discussed earlier, is always seen this revolving door thing. So for 10 years in power means it's definitely creating a lot of fatigue and anti-incumbency sentiment to some extent. And one of the factors which led to the consolidation of minorities, the Muslim minorities behind UDF, is also the very spirited campaign about of the UDF, the LDF's, the CPM's alleged sort of underhand deals with the BJP, which, as you said, which gave that particular, that sort
Mundu
of
Udutha
saying that, yeah, Modi, Pinarayi Vijayan is seen as a Modi in Mundu. And which was a very spirited campaign. Whether that is aligned to the truth or not is another issue, but it actually got much traction and virality. So the Muslims community, this has worked very well among the Muslim community.
All right, Mr. KJ Jacob is here. I think hope the tech glitches are all sorted. Mr. Jacob, it seems like it's a huge test for brand Pinarayi in 2026 this time. According to the exit poll predictions, UDF seems to have the edge. Is this something that you expected, or is there a surprise here?
This is on the expected line, as MG had
Mhm.
pointed out. But I was thinking slightly. My hunch is that if the UDF indeed comes back to power, there will be a wave. This was my assumption. They'll get
Mhm.
100 plus. None of the exit polls indicates that. So that is a bit surprising because for me, if the LDF were to, the UDF were to win, they will win by a landslide. There is no other reason. I've traveled across Kerala. I have seen a kind of anti-government, anti-Pinarayi mode all across Kerala. If that has that has been the reason. I mean, if that is the reason for the government being voted out, then that has to be waived. It cannot be a slight edge to the UDF kind of thing. That is highly unlikely to happen. So this My Access India exit poll, which talks about 5% difference in the voting percentage, that is the most probable thing. If that comes, 90 is the seat that particular poll gives to the UDF. If that is not the case, if they didn't get it right, then the LDF, I think, has still a chance. They might still prove the exit polls wrong and could come back to power with less than 75 seats. So for me, it's on the exit polls are on the expected lines, in the sense that if the UDF wins, it should be winning. Massive.
All right. So, but I was just talking to Mr. MGR as well about this. You think you talked about that you expected that it could actually cross the 100 mark and all that. So, but you think the UDF is certainly struggling. There's
It
lots
could.
of internal bickerings in the United Democratic Front there, as much as it's in the Congress and anywhere else in India there. We didn't know, we don't have a solid chief minister face as the LDF has got Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan there, who's got a proven track record of both governance and as somebody who's able to catch hold of the party there. We don't know whether it's going to be Mr. V.D. Satishan, whether it's going to be Mr. Ramesh Chennithala, or it's going to be somebody from Delhi like K.C. Venugopal. So you think if there would have been a chief minister candidate for the UDF, you think the UDF tally would have been better? Do you think so?
I don't think so. For a sensible person in Kerala, he has no reason to vote for the UDF. This is my reading of it. Whether they have a chief minister candidate or not, the
Hmm.
LDF was on trial this time. Whether the UDF had a leader of the CM material, that hardly matters. But the question, the entire campaign material, the entire campaign stream was full of Pinarayi Vijayan, whether it's either for him or it's against him. So whether the UDF does promote a leader or not, that could hardly make a difference to the UDF voting pattern. As you mentioned earlier, the campaign. I mean, the chief minister going and meeting the union finance minister or even the prime minister was branded as a sign of a deal between the LDF and the BJP. This was the way
That's right.
narratives were peddled in Kerala. So it hardly matters because this was consistently peddled into the minds of the people, and the left was simply watching the show, doing pretty nothing. So this kind of narrative, which was undermining the very idea of left politics, was happening in Kerala. So I don't think it's a even if the UDF comes to power, it cannot be a pro UDF government because people know what is UDF all about. We have seen a UDF from 1980, internal bickerings, the government changes, chief minister changes. It all happens. It's all a part of the UDF ball game. People know it. So that doesn't, whether they have a chief ministerial candidate or not, hardly makes a difference to the people's decision. This is what my
Okay.
hunch.
Okay, so let me bring Mr. MGR here. The Congress-led UDF swept the 2019 and 2024 general elections in Kerala, as well as the recent local body polls as well. But general elections momentum has historically struggled to translate into the assembly election win for the UDF, and in the LDF's favor. So but going by these numbers on the exit poll, you think that gap has finally closed right now? You think that's not going to be the trend anymore?
Well, that is right. That is what the exit poll shows. But one never knows about the exact poll that is going to come in 1 week's time. So definitely that that divergence between the Lok Sabha election and the Assembly election, even when they were held so close to each other, you have seen this completely contradictory results. But that doesn't need to be the case always, and and especially because this particular, the other factors that we discussed, because of this 10-year long, rule, which triggered which seems to have triggered a voter fatigue across the state, and the minority consolidation, and also the BJP factor. The BJP factor also seems to have been hitting the LDF more in the last few years, because once they crossed the threshold of about 14%, 13, 12%, and 13%, now it is actually, initially it was the UDF which had to pay a price for that, because BJP ate into their upper caste votes, and now you see the BJP coming into the left, the traditional left vote banks in the OBC and the lower caste sections. But the exit polls, some of the exit polls show that BJP vote could actually come down to about 15%. It had 19 plus percent in 2025. In 2024 Lok Sabha election, it is likely to drop a bit, and this is something, this is one exit poll shows. So these factors, the minority consolidation, the voter fatigue, and the erosion of traditional left votes towards the saffron camp, these factors have actually seem to have sort of worked if the exit poll results are going to be correct.
All right. So, Mr. Jacob, where does BJP stand in this? Prime Minister Narendra Modi was quite optimistic. He spoke about Nanni Kerala and all that, particularly after the victory in the Thiruvananthapuram mayoral elections and all that. So, Rajiv Chandrasekhar was also quite optimistic there, who contested against Dr. Tharoor in Thiruvananthapuram last time and lost the election there. But do you see the exit poll data show genuine seat gains for NDA in Thrissur, Thiruvananthapuram or Palakkad? Palakkad also seen as a very interesting battle there. You think the BJP is moving from being a sort of a vote share party, without a seat dividend?
I don't see a major swing for the BJP. I presume that their vote share could come down. They have tried a very risky game this time. In the last, after the Lok Sabha elections, they tried to incorporate the Christian community in a massive way. And that has created some kind of friction within the BJP rank itself. Their traditional vote bank, as their leaders themselves say, that is the, all over India, that is the Hindu vote bank. They try to co-opt the Christians because they if they were to cross the threshold of winning, they need to get the minority community votes also, because Kerala is 55% Hindu and 45% made up of Muslims and Christians. So they needed that votes. They tried to do that, but that hasn't worked, it seems. So the BJP will be really doing this soul searching once the election results are out. Maybe I don't see the BJP winning a seat in either in Thiruvananthapuram or in Palakkad, but maybe in Kasaragod. I don't know what exactly the exit poll says. Maybe in some other districts it's possible, but I seriously doubt they are winning in Thiruvananthapuram or Palakkad, where they stood a chance.
Mr. MGR, what would you say about the Bharatiya Janata Party here?
Well, the BJP, as Jacob rightly said, this Christian thing seems to be a sticky wicket for the BJP, because you saw that their vote percentage going up from 15% to nearly 20% in 2024 Lok Sabha election, and that was ascribed to to the inroads it made among the Christian community, according to CSDS surveys. It got 5% of Christian votes. So, but what you saw last time in the Panchayat election is the votes dropping again to 15%, which was also seen as, the Christians sort of, getting sort of disillusioned with the BJP for various reasons. So that seems to be continuing now, because that is the real vote percent they have right now, 15%, and if they're coming down to 15%, that shows that their attempts to woo the Christian community has not made much headway, and the winning seats, definitely it's not yet clear, even Kerala, even in Trivandrum or Palakkad or Malay, in Kasaragod district, where they have made a good show in terms of their campaigns. And this time, their strategy also was, focusing on, 10 to 12 seats where they came top in the last Lok Sabha election, the assembly segments where they came top. So they were actually concentrating on these 10 to 12 seats instead of going for an all-out Kerala campaign. So I think that is what they have been pretty strong in their campaign in Trivandrum, 2 seats, and Palakkad, as you said, in the seat in Kollam. So, but whether they are going to win these seats is still an issue, and I'm not sure. And I don't think that they're likely to get any seat in this election also. So the Kerala is likely to remain a bridge too far for the BJP.
All right. Okay. It's an interesting point. One last question there, sir. If the LDF gets to win this election, you think, but we don't really see the exit polls predicting that except for PMark, which is predicted 71 to 79 for the LDF there. You think this is going to be Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan's last term? And because, and the LDF doesn't also have a successor there. You think succession planning has to start within the LDF there? This
Absolutely.
exit?
Absolutely. The question is for KJ?
No, no, for you, sir. Please, please.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, because this is one of the most pivotal questions that the left, the CPM in particular, has to ask, because there seems to be a complete sort of dominance by one person, Pinarayi Vijayan, in the party, in every aspect of party functioning, because right from micromanagement to the big policy building. And that the reason for this is Pinarayi Vijayan's pretty robust record in the last 20 years. This is the Kerala is the only place where the red flag was flying high, and thanks mainly to Pinarayi Vijayan. So that actually made him the sentinel of the last frontier of the left, as it were. So that has made him so powerful. But the problem is that for all leaders like that who actually big, it's a typical crisis that the left faces now. Pinarayi Vijayan is over 80. His health is not in the best terms, and so definitely there is biological sort of hurdle that Pinarayi Vijayan is going to face. So what next? So what happens to the party in his absence, or if he is going to be what happens to the party, what happens to the entire left movement. These are all major questions that's actually haunting the CPM. And the CPM, I don't think that CPM has been seriously introspecting about these problems, which is so clear. History has shown that whenever this kind of larger than life leaders emerge, what happens is after that it becomes a deluge. So I think this is a major problem that the LDF faces, not just the LDF, but the CPM and the left movement in general in India, which is which the Kerala state is so important right now.
All right, Mr. Jacob, final round of thoughts. Would you disagree with this, or would you agree with this?
No, Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan is 81 years old, and as he pointed out, he's not in the. His health is not in the best of terms. So the CPM, whether they win the election or not, will have to look for an alternative leadership, and they have indeed in their ranks. There are people who can be promoted. The CPM should be doing big soul searching in that case also. What I found interesting I generally agree with what MGR said on Pinarayi Vijayan's role in formulating policies for the government and for the party. But I have observed that generally the CPM and the communist parties, they generally don't compromise on their policies for governance. This has been their pattern. This has been their history. But what I've noticed in Kerala, and this could work against the party in this election also, is that the government and the governance they have become the predominant factors for the CPM. I even feel that MGR indicated about the OBC votes shifting away from from the CPM. So what they have done, in my opinion, is that they try to play a soft Hindutva card even in Kerala, which is
That's right.
against what the CPM or Communist parties have always they have always stood for. In fact, the communists have always advised the Congress against doing this when the Congress did it. They have been saying that if the Congress played the soft Hindutva card, then that will be they will be clearing the grounds for the BJP to take over. So this has been happening in Kerala, in my opinion. So now, winning the elections and being in government, they have become the most important priority for the CPM in the under Pinarayi Vijayan, at least especially in the second term. So the Congress, if they win, one of the reasons why they will be winning is that they have been successfully communicated to the left-minded people that see another term for the left will be the complete erosion of left values, and there are people from the left itself supporting that argument. So that could be what whether they continue, they will come back to power or not. The CPM will have to introspect and see whether the policy they have been following the last 2 years was right or not. That they will have to decide. And I think there will be a course correction, whether they win or not. Whether, even if they win, they cannot continue with this kind of a policy. That means, I mean, we talk about the minority consolidation. The problem with that argument is that if the LDF and the CPM used to be getting, when you say minority consolidation, generally we don't include Christians because Christians, anyway, they are voting in favor of the UDF. LDF used to, and the CPM used to get Muslim votes if they choose not to vote for the LDF this time. It can't be the fault of the Muslims. It should be the fault of the LDF. Instead of, if they try to say that there is Muslim consolidation and they voted en bloc for the UDF, that invariably means that the LDF or the CPM is ineligible to get the votes of the Muslims. So of the Muslim, on a corollary, that means it has become a Hindu party. Just imagine the danger in advancing that argument. In a place like Kerala, that will be the ultimate disservice the CPM can do to the secular cause. So there will be temptation for the left to brand every Muslim voter as consolidated into one frame, and they voted en bloc for the UDF. The fact of the matter is that when we have one section of a major section of the Sunni Muslims, they have openly, I mean, not very openly, they have extended the support to the LDF. So that factor is there. So I don't see a Muslim consolidation per se. And even if it is one, it is not for them to introspect. It will be for the left to introspect to why they have stopped getting the Muslim vote. And advancing the argument, I mean, this is the first argument they have come up with when they lost the Lok Sabha election. This was the first argument they picked on when they lost the Palghat by-election, that there is a Muslim consolidation. That's a very unfair argument for the left to advance, and it will be a very dangerous argument also.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking your time out and joining us in the Federal. Very insightful talking to both of you. Thank you.